Welcome to Let's Talk with Dr. Robin. In this podcast, topics will be discussed that promote the daily management of life. While this information is meant to supplement your journey towards healthy emotional well-being, it is not intended to take the place of seeing a licensed mental health professional. I am Dr. Robin C. Wiley, a licensed clinical social worker with a private therapy practice in New Jersey. Thank you for joining today's conversation. Good afternoon, everybody. It is actually afternoon. So we're back. I've had people to say, like, are you still doing the show? What's going on? So we took a little bit of I took a little bit of a break. Bryce is never on break.
That's not true.
He's just waiting for me. He's just waiting for me.
No, I did have something going on that day we were supposed to, though.
You did? Okay. All right. So I feel a little bit better because, I'm
just all you.
So, I'm just, we're just... we've been busy. We've been busy. Very busy. Busy with life.
Yes.
And all that life encompasses. Yes. And so when I thought about like today, a lot of times ideas for shows or ideas for topics for the shows, they kind of hit me at different times. It could be like, I'm talking to a client, something hits me. It could be, and this one actually hit me when I was like, actually in conversation with my hairdresser, actually.
Oh.
Right. We're having a conversation.
Hair looks nice too, Dr. Robin.
Thank you. Different.
That's all right. You're stretching it out. It's dope though.
Thank you. I always say like, it's so funny because I always say like she's my therapist. Sure. As a therapist, I say she's my therapist. It's just like I think because we have a long-standing relationship. Right. She's been my hairdresser for probably about 26 years.
So she's like family.
Basically, she's like family. Yeah. So and in that time when you sit in someone's chair, first of all, someone cutting your hair, working on your hair, because I think it's the same thing for men with barbers. That's a significant relationship that you have with that person. That person hears, about their life. They know about your life. They know about the significant moments in your life and that kind of thing. And so over these years, when you've had that time with somebody over that period of time, right. They know you know them. Right. So we were just having a conversation about things, checking in as sister friends do. And, we talked about some different things, a bunch of different topics, but we were talking about acceptance.
I will say this. I didn't know that until recently that the relationship that a barber has with that a man has with a barber is the same as a woman with a hairdresser. I didn't know that until I watched Blackish this week. Okay. And the little girl was about to do something different with her hair. And it was, they was breaking it down. I really didn't know that.
And your hairdresser feels some kind of way.
I always thought that women go to like different hairdressers because they get tired of how one do or whatever.
Well, I can't speak for everyone.
Okay.
Some might do that, but sure. I would not. I would feel like it was cheating, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Not to mention my hairdresser would know.
Right. See, like we don't go to different barbershops because we're afraid. We're afraid of them pushing our hairline back. See, we're strategic. Once we find somebody that know how to get the hairline right, we're gonna keep going there, right. And we'll woof. We won't get no cut until we can go right back there, or somebody that is at least equally, that can satisfy that hairline.
Okay.
It's a little different.
And it's interesting because so my nephew is a barber.
Right.
And I probably should be shouting out all these different
Shout out to your nephew, absolutely.
Well, I would have to remember the place that he's at.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'll come back to that.
All right.
We'll put it in the comments or something like that. But my nephew is a barber. And so I'm somewhat familiar with that, that idea about the hairline, because the hairline is important. You don't want that hairline going back.
Not at all.
You don't want somebody taking your hairline back.
Not at all.
No. My hairdresser, my hairstylist, as I should say.
Sure.
So definitely if I've, washed my hair myself, which does not happen often, I always just wait for her.
Right.
If I were to put a different product in there, she would know. She would be like, what have you been doing? Okay. Right. She's, and that's how, because it's a significant relationship. Okay. It's a relationship with your hair.
Right.
And if we know, women of color in particular,
right.
We have this sometimes almost like a love-hate with our hair. You know what I mean? And I mean, we're off topic here, but we're going to bring it back around because it's related. It's related because it's about acceptance. It's about acceptance.
I got you.
So she and I were having this conversation, not about our hair or anything like that, but we were talking about some different things. And the topic of acceptance came up. Mm-hmm. And it had me thinking, because I have had this conversation with, I think, clients in the past, about acceptance and what that means. And what I mean is acceptance, just in case somebody needs, I'm talking about the ACCEPT, ANCE acceptance. Sure. Not like, excluding something like this, accept, one thing, accept that. We're talking about acceptance, like in terms of embracing something, acknowledging something, being aware of it, that type of thing. Right. And so the title of today's show is The Benefits of Acceptance. So first, before I get ready to go into it, though, before we dig deep, because you know how we go. How you doing, Bryce? How's it going?
I'm doing all right. You know what? It's been a while, but I'm okay. It's the season has changed.
Yeah, we're in fall.
We're in fall. I'm gonna ask you. You know what? I'm gonna get you to slide over a little bit. I hate to do that.
Okay.
But I gotta do it in front because you know what? We're doing a little closer.
Yeah. Okay.
So I need you just to slide over. There
all right. Am I good? All right. Okay. Do I need to move the mic a little bit?
No, you can twist it over.
Just twist it a little bit this way. Okay,
that's all right.
All right, there we go.
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. Just the seasons change, and now you know what? I'm in a period of my life. I call it the pursuit of happiness, and I call it I'm trusting the process. So whatever that comes with, it goes through.
That's actually good that you said that.
It comes through. It's a lot of. I heard a sermon last week, and it really invigorated me, and I keep that in my mind. And it was talking about the bumpy road, the better.
Ooh, I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It gets so if how I'm doing okay, but I'm on bumpy roads to better.
Okay, and the thing is, I think it's to look forward to the better.
And that's okay, right? That's okay
because that's transition.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Yes.
That's about transition. That's about change. So
yes.
So I think all of that is all of that's significant, and the acceptance of it.
Yes.
So pulling it back into our topic, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So I can say, I don't know that I wouldn't say I'm on a bumpy road. I think the road is just. Anyone who knows me, anybody who knows me, and especially in these last maybe I guess like couple of months, and my hairdresser too hears this a lot. Like I am busy.
Right.
Like busy is an understatement.
Sure.
And so, like doing this show is a priority for me. It is. It isn't. Right. Well, it's a priority. It's important. It's one of many priorities.
Sure.
And so, but sometimes the busyness of everything else, of running a business, having a business that's, growing exponentially,
right.
Managing staff, also, we also have, you got family obligations, you got, other things that you're trying to do.
Right.
Now, there are some people be saying, well, you're still traveling a lot. That's funny. That's that remote work. Don't knock it.
That's pretty funny.
But also, too, I think sometimes, for those of us who are busy, you almost have to travel to be able to get any type of break.
That's true.
Because if you're home, you're still going to be doing other stuff.
Doing other things. It never stops.
Especially when you run a business. You just never stop. So anybody who's self-employed or who has a business or whatever, you don't really stop. It's not like you go to work 9 to 5 and you come home and everything is great. You get to sit back and watch Netflix. No, you're still working.
And even if you're watching Netflix, you're still working.
I'm still working.
Because it's on your mind.
Right. Because I've been I'm the type of person I like to binge watch a show or two.
Okay.
So prior, my binge watching was Vikings, which is an older. It's not out anymore. It's an older show.
Okay.
And that wasn't a Netflix. And currently, what am I binge? Currently I'm binge watching a show that probably a lot of people have never even. I don't know if people have heard of it. It's Vera. It's like a BritBox. It's like a.
No, I don't
think. It's a PBS. Like
oh my God.
Oh, I am a PBS. I love PBS.
Oh my God.
PBS masterpiece. Oh, I love PBS. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
I absolutely love PBS. I love that. I love Acorn TV, all of those. I love all of those types of shows. They have some really great, murder mysteries like LA, almost like Law and Order-esque type of shows or whatever. So yeah, and it's like a show I can still do work while I'm binge watching. But
right.
Anyhow, but busy, yeah. I've been very busy. And so it had me thinking about the idea of, sometimes we're constantly like looking, well, I would say the acceptance piece. Let me go back for a second. Acceptance in a couple of things. All right. So are we taking time to accept what is? So like sometimes our circumstances are a certain way, and are we accepting of that, right, of what those circumstances is? And I'm gonna clarify this in a second.
Okay.
The reality of certain situations. So like, are we accepting of that? Like I'm busy. I'm going to be busy. There's probably not going to be a time
I'm not going to be
busy, right, like on some type of level.
Sure.
And so the acceptance of that is actually quite freeing versus the alternative, which is, why can't it be this way? I wish it was that way or whatever. And kind of what I'm trying to get home today, or not get home, but however they say that phrase, hit home. What I'm trying to hit home with our listeners is, I believe first there needs to be acceptance. And then when there's that acceptance of how something is, that kind of sets the stage for you to be able to then make the changes or whatever it is you may need to do.
I totally agree. Because once you embrace it.
Right.
Which is like the same thing as acceptance.
And it's almost like, embrace it. Right? And it's almost like it's less stressful because oftentimes we are, and I know that like, this is something that a lot of folks deal with. It's the, I wish it could be this way. I'm hopeful that it's going to turn out another way. So we're doing that kind of thing. And that kind of causes us to get stuck.
Yes.
Because we get stuck in the wish or the hopefulness.
Yes, absolutely.
The hope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And the hope is not really changing anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, so it's just like, and so this could be about a lot of different things. So that's one part of like, if circumstances are not ideal.
Sure.
And you need to accept that versus being hopeful that, okay, I wish it was a little different.
Right.
Or the other part with acceptance, and this is actually what my hairdresser and I were talking about, is the idea of looking at what's the next thing I got to do? What's the next accomplishment? What's the next goal? Versus the acceptance of, and it's almost like a gratitude, the acceptance and the appreciation and the gratitude of what you have now.
Wait, say again?
So all right. Let me go back. Okay. So, because I got my notes here. I like to have my talking points. So this idea that, and I say this because a lot of times many of us are achievers.
Yes.
We're constantly achieving and what's the thing. Right. So and it's not to say that you don't think about what is the next thing that you're going to do or where you need to move on, but it's about the acceptance and the embracing and the appreciation for what you actually have. So it's like, it's kind of like a stopping to smell the roses before you look on to the next patch of whatever it is, you know what I mean, to the next flower.
Almost like showing an appreciation of what you have.
Right, showing appreciation of what you have. Because a lot of times when someone is an achiever or feels that need and that desire to keep achieving, they just look at what's the next thing for you to achieve.
Pumping out stuff. They keep working,
There is no focus on, well, wait a minute. Let me take a moment and sit back
and just
see what I got going on right now, because this is pretty awesome what I got going on right now.
Right.
And so even though, because, even being a therapist, you know what I mean? Like, we too have to, sometimes take a moment to reflect and then gain some knowledge and some insight and then apply that, hopefully, and so it caused me actually to think about, I'm thinking about different things I need to do to continue on, to progress or whatever. And there's always different things coming my way. There's opportunities, things like that.
Right.
Great opportunities. And a lot of times, I, like many people, have that problem with saying no. I'm a constant like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. I can take that on. And instead of, not to say that you don't still say yes, but instead of really thinking about, okay, what's the next thing that I've got to do? It's like, well, let me just take a moment and let me just be really pleased with myself or pleased with where I am right now.
Right.
And that could be for anything. So it could be about, your health stuff. It could be about, it could be about work stuff. It could be about goals, any type of career goals, whatever. It could be about anything. And what I'm just trying to stress is that, it's not that we don't strive to do better. It's not that. It's not, to do better and to be better. Of course we do. Of course there's always room for growth. That is the thing. However, we need to, appreciate what we have, where we are, and how far we've come Because a lot of times we don't really acknowledge that. We don't look at like, okay, a year ago or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago or 5 years ago, where were you then and where are you now?
Yeah.
And if you're in a better place, or if you've made some strides, and in terms of like you've accomplished some things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something to
celebrate.
Yeah, it's something to really celebrate.
You know what it is though? And I think I struggle with that. And I think a lot of people do. And one of my struggles is that I never want to be relaxed and comfortable.
So complacent.
I don't like it, because then, you know what it is? It's just like because wherever I've grown from, it's still a distant memory. It's not you know what I'm saying? It's still here. Mm-hmm. It's still in my peripheral.
And also a lot of times we're not raised that way.
Oh yeah.
Because I've been doing a lot of, not so much, I wouldn't say it's research. It's probably more some informal research, but on the idea of how, generationally, in particular for people of color, but I would say for, Black and brown people in general, a lot of times how we are raised really influences, as with most people, honestly, how we embrace day-to-day life and the thoughts that we have in our heads about ourselves and what we should be doing and different things. So there's this concept, I feel like, of, you always have to be better, do better, be great. And even here, and even in my ending, I always say, be well, be great, be you. Right. You know what I mean? And, I think, and I still say that, I believe in that.
Right.
But it's about what your greatness is, how you define that for yourself. A lot of times, though, I think we're not looking at we're great now, we're worthy now, we're well now, we're fantastic now. We're looking at, well, if I do this, then I'll be better. If I do that, if I get this. So there's no stopping and appreciating. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we feel like, because acceptance doesn't mean complacency. And that's what I was going to say. It doesn't mean that. Complacency meaning like that, not interested in change, or, you're kind of satisfied with where you are now. You're like, I don't need to do anything different.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good, whatever. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean because complacency kind of seems like a negative concept, a negative term.
Right.
But acceptance just means that you take that little bit of a moment to just embrace what you've done. You reflect upon what you've already done, because if you don't, so it's like somebody running a marathon or training for a marathon. A marathon is, what is it, like 26 point something miles.
It's a long way.
Yes, it's a long way, right? So
that I do know,
right? And I have there's a good. I would definitely say he is my brother-in-law. Because his wife is my god sister. Oh, okay. And he is running a marathon today in Detroit. He's going to be on our show. Okay. Mr. Charles Williams. Oh, okay. No doubt. He will be. Yeah, he's going to be a guest on our show. We're going to coordinate it. He's a very busy person too, and found time to be able to run a marathon, which I'm quite impressed. But when you think about, and it had me thinking, when you think about running a marathon, you don't just wake up one day and run a marathon. No. You have to practice. And so you have to steadily build up your momentum and that kind of thing. Right. And just like with anything that you want to achieve. So it's small steps that lead to that bigger picture. Right. And you can't be focused on what you can't do. That, okay, I can't run the marathon yet. You have to be focused. Look, I was running 1 mile. Now I'm running 10 miles. Right. Now I'm running 20 miles. I'm almost there. And then next thing you know, you're running the marathon. Right. So small steps to greatness. Exactly. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it's that acceptance means that, you know that you're constantly on this path of, achieving, and you want to, do things different and adding. And what happens is when you achieve, people also expect you to achieve. To continue. So there's that inner voice that may not be so inner that's kind of saying like, well, what are you going to do next? Or what are we waiting for? Right. So it's like, I always think about too, like artists, like musicians, you think about like, I hate to like throw like Beyonce, I'll just say. She'll come out with her first album, album sounds good, right? And then the second album. It's got to sound good. The second album got to be better. Well, yeah, it's got to be better. Right. So like, what kind of pressure? But you know what I mean? Like I hope that. I think she's at a place of acceptance, though. I hope, because I was going to say, I hope she accepts that she's done good work. Yes. You know what I mean? Right. And that, Because that's got to be a tough place to be in, is that you do something and then it's at because you set a standard.
Right.
And then that standard now becomes the expectation of everyone.
Yeah.
And so, and even though, we're not Beyonce,
sure.
but, I mean,
sure.
We're not far.
Right.
In our fields, we might be Beyonce in our respective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. But what happens is that, I just hope that she, just like anybody that produces greatness in a sense, would take time to reflect on what they've done before they are like, well,
that's very powerful.
What's on the next one going to be like? And I got to be working on it, because you do see that a lot of times people are like, well, I'm already working on the next project.
Yeah.
Before this one's even like, in the box. But
in a way that, what you're saying is so profound, because in a way you're saying that the acceptance helps guide the future.
Right. It can.
If you think about it, you know what I'm saying? Because, once you come to a place of acceptance in, let's say, as an artist or previous work or anything previously that you come to now accept and celebrate, that actually takes the pressure off of you.
Right.
Because now you're able to see clearly and say, you know what? Okay, the next great thing I'm going to do, I have confidence. Because a lot of times pressure is built with confidence and doubting whether you can still meet that same standard that you met before. Right. So it's funny how it's tied. It's very profound.
And I'm not saying that you don't think that, because of course we think, like I was doing, I was teaching yesterday and
that wasn't your first time teaching at Rutgers, right? Or was that?
Oh, no. Not for I was teaching in my doctoral program. No, that wasn't the first time. No, I actually taught last year too.
At Rutgers. Okay.
And so, it's interesting because every time it's a different group.
Right.
So you never know how they're going to respond to the topic and what you're doing or your style of teaching and that kind of thing. And so, there is a little bit of, I guess just like I'm less nervous. I'm more confident because, you're more familiar with the material and that kind of thing. And I think a lot of times the acceptance piece for me in those moments is, well, I don't really have the control over how somebody takes what I'm putting out there, how they receive it. I can't really determine that. I can't really, I will do the best I can and I know what I'm bringing to the table.
Right.
But everybody's not for everyone.
Right.
So,
and some people have their own perception of things.
And everyone is not for everybody.
Right.
So right. And that's the same thing with being a therapist. Like as a therapist, we know we may not be for everybody.
Right, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Some people will connect with very well and other people maybe not. And that's just the nature of being human.
Right.
So I think the other part of acceptance. So let's go back. So that's kind of like, to me, like almost like the positive thing of acceptance.
Okay.
Accepting like your abilities and accepting your accomplishments.
Okay.
And being okay with them. And then not saying you don't strive to move on and do something else. Right. But just taking those moments to bask in your glory before you're like, well, I got to move on. I got to do this next.
Sure.
Right. So that's the one part. The other part is, which is what I find that we work with a lot with clients is the idea of when someone has to accept what the situation is, like a situation that may not be ideal. And there is this reluctance because we're so caught up in wanting it to be different. Right. Or the person to be different, because a lot of times it's about people. Right. Wanting the person to be different or the job to be different or whatever the case may be, versus accepting that this is how it is. Right. And then having that to sort of pivot you to make whatever decisions you need to make
to move
to
forward.
Be able to address the situation.
That's a tough place, though.
It can be, yes. It can be. Because the acceptance part is the tough part. That's what I notice. Most people have a lot of difficulty with. Because we're constantly in this state of, why can't they just do this? Why can't it be like this?
That's right.
Why can't, how come? I wish it would. I'm hopeful that.
That's right.
Right.
That's very hard, though.
It is hard.
It's hard.
But I don't think it's impossible. It's hard, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we have to put sometimes, so where our focus can be, because you got to think acceptance is the idea of, like you said, embracing, but it's also the idea of like looking at something from the realistic perspective. Right. Like, okay.
For what it is.
Yeah, for what it is. Right. Yeah. So, and that is what's reality.
Yeah.
That's what reality is. What we're hoping it is may not actually be reality.
But the acceptance is looking at it for what it is, but it's also balancing all those other emotions.
Yes, that can be associated. And that's the thing.
That influence what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, or can skew it. So, if we talk about clients, and oftentimes clients, they kind of go through like relational type of situations. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's, you might be, helping to guide someone to making better decisions, which requires you to then accept things for what they are. But then now you're putting in the time that you might have been around this person, or the love that you may have for this person, all those,
or the comfort
that
because
you
it's
have.
just right because it's like, this is who I'm with. I'm just comfort with
the codependency,
or it could be the codependency, right?
So that stuff matters because those things now they influence.
Right.
Acceptance of how you view it, maybe.
Right. But it also could be on the flip side, where you accept the fact that, okay, you know what, this is how this person is, and is it a non-negotiable or not?
Sure.
Like whatever, or the job situation, because it could be about people, it could be about situations, the job situation. Like, okay, this is because we've all done this where we've applied for a job, and when you go to apply for a job, they kind of tell you, we're family here, everything's great.
Yeah, good.
They sell this magnificent culture because agencies don't look at the culture. Right. They don't look at their agency culture. They just look at getting people. Right. And so, filling slots. Exactly. So, they sell you when you come in, and then you get in there and you realize things are a little different than maybe how they described it.
Sure.
So, sometimes we have in our mind created this image, this picture of how we think it should be.
Right.
And then we go and we're disappointed. Right. And so then we get caught up in the fact that, well, this is not how I thought it was going to be.
I thought this was crazy. This was family.
Right. And this is not. And this is what's happening. Right. So, and it's not to say that you have to stay there or not, because I always feel like we always have choices. We don't always exercise those choices, but I feel like we have them. Right. However, what ends up happening is we don't accept that this is what it is. So we're kind of like, so in our mind, we're kind of pushing up against the reality.
Right.
Because we're still like, well, why can't it be this way?
Right.
Why, when those things may not change, it may not change in your time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Being there at that job or whatever. And so the acceptance part, again, helps you to acknowledge what is.
Yep.
What is right in front of us? Like, what is the reality? Reality, this is not a place that is going to be conducive to maybe my well-being or whatever. So then I then can make the decisions to change things or do things differently, and what's going to be better for me.
That is the truth. I mean, you're absolutely right about that. Acceptance is the first thing, because I remember I was at this one job, and I knew, they let me know that, okay, my career is not going to be long here. And as soon as I got that inkling,
right, that's all.
Now it sets the plan in motion.
Right.
So I've accepted. I said, okay, wow, no. I said, I don't. It's great to be here, but this is not going to be long lasting. And then that sets the plan.
Yes. Yeah, because then you realize what you're doing. So you've accepted that this is what the circumstances are going to be. And don't get me wrong, sometimes acceptance comes a little later after we've had a series of events that then reinforce what we don't want to believe, but what we know is actually true.
Right.
And that could be, again, with people. It's just like someone saying, oh, this person is my friend.
Right.
But the things that they do don't really reinforce the idea that they're your friend. And so sometimes we need a couple of things to happen for us to really, to hit home again with us, to say, oh, this person is not really the friend that I thought they were, that I would hope that they would be.
Right, exactly.
And I'm very big on, looking at people not for what role they play within our life, but for who they are.
Sure.
So based on their personality, behaviors, all those kinds of things. Because a lot of times we look at somebody's role. So we say, well, this person in my life is my friend, or they're my parent, or they're my, sibling, or they're my partner, or whatever. Right. So therefore, based on my expectations, they should be doing these things.
Right.
However, that is not really how people operate. People operate. What comes first and foremost is their who they are as a person.
Right.
And that influences them. And that influences them in those roles. So it's the same thing in a job. Right. This person may be your supervisor. And yes, they should be acting this way according to expectations. But if they don't.
But they're still a person.
Yeah, they're still a person. And they're a person first.
That's right.
So the acceptance of that then allows you to be able to make whatever decisions you need to make.
That you need to make.
That are what's going to work best for you.
Because you ain't changing them.
Right.
You can change.
Right. You can only change you. You can only change yourself. So
that's great stuff, though. This is really great stuff. And I think
I'm glad. I'm
going to tell you what I really found great about it is that because the acceptance is that part is you saying, okay, you know what? And true acceptance, though.
Yeah.
That
really
means that means that you've taken the blinders of emotion of all the other things that can help influence. And now you're just meeting at bare bones what is good for you, what's not good for you, XYZ. My mother, rest in peace, she always had a quote, and it stays with me to this day. And I remember somebody said, oh, well, I said, yeah, my moms used to tell me all the time this particular quote. And they said to me, oh, and then have you seen now that, has God showed you that you shouldn't be thinking like this? And I'm thinking to myself, No. If anything, God showed me that I need to be thinking like this. Mm-hmm. And the quote was this: believe all of what you see, but half of what you hear.
Oh, well, yeah. And it's a famous quote.
It's a famous
quote. Right.
All of what you see, half of what you hear.
Right, exactly. Well, because what goes hand in hand with that is actions speak louder than words.
Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, so it's all that. And I think, and not to say, because, sometimes people mean well.
Sure.
Just like I think, sometimes people, when they start agencies or whatever, they mean well.
Yes.
Things go awry.
They do.
Or whatever, or they come in one way and then they realize, things are not going to work that way and they have to do things a different way. There's a lot of things that influence that, especially when people are in business.
Especially business, because they often say that, you don't really know someone until
you work with them.
You work
with them, you live with them.
But it's like, you know what, you people say you got to be careful of how people act when they start really making money. You know what I'm saying? Because then they tend to change. Sometimes people tend to change and that ego.
Well, even success. But I think because it depends on how, when people associate, money or achievement or whatever with success, success can change people. I mean, and some of that can go hand in hand with the idea of them striving to go on to the next thing or whatever. What's the next? So I think it can if they allow it to. Yeah, it can. I mean, it's important. And you said something just a second ago about the ego. And that is a key thing too, because the ego is it's a false sense of,
oh my gosh,
it's a false sense of it's false concepts basically. It's how we want to appear to other people.
Absolutely.
And we have to be careful of our ego. Yeah. And I'm not saying that the ego doesn't serve a purpose, because there are times when, yes, we need to recognize our greatness. We need to recognize our worth.
Sure.
Absolutely. And some may say that's, ego focused. However, the ego can also convince us of things or have us going down a path that alienates us from others.
Right.
So we have to constantly
keep it in check.
Keep our ego in check.
It has Absolutely. To be in check.
Yeah, you have to, because
it has to be.
But I'll tell you one thing, and I've seen this, within my own family.
Right.
Whom I love dearly. It's it's one thing. And I can't speak for everybody, but I know, as an African-American woman, in my family, regardless of what accomplishments I have, I'm still Robbie.
That's it.
Or I'm still, they could care less.
That's it.
The holidays, whatever they could care less. It's okay, hey, I'm still the young freckle-faced girl from Boydton, Virginia. I'm still, you know what I mean? Nobody really cares. They don't.
Right. They don't care about the fame.
They don't care about that. Yeah, exactly. When I talk to my friends from down south, it's still very much a regular conversation.
Absolutely.
And you need that.
Yeah.
You need that because you need to stay grounded.
It keeps you grounded.
Right. And it helps you to, not to say that your accomplishments are diminished. It's not about that, because, I'm sure family and friends are very proud of what I've done and that kind of thing. That's not but it also is about, we still love you for who you are regardless of it. So that's really what it's about. It's if you take all that stuff away, we still see you for who you are. And that's really what you want. You want people like that in your life.
Right. Because they can help you with your ego.
Absolutely.
And keep your ego. They will check
it.
They will check you.
Yeah, they will check
quickly.
It real quick.
You know what I'm saying? So
they will.
Yeah. I really like this topic though, because the acceptance is such a hard part. And it's all part of that. Again, I'm on this mantra of trusting the process. That's just,
right. And that's the thing is
it's
that
all part of it, though.
So where this kind of related, where I kind of pulled it in and related to me this week was the idea of the acceptance of, about being busy and about things sometimes having, like you were saying, bumpy roads. So sometimes there's a day when it's like, oh, this is like a rocky day. There's a lot going on today, or you're dealing with different stuff or whatever. And the acceptance that there are going to be days like that,
right?
And that is part of, some things are part of like owning a business or being, or having like, a practice and all that kind of stuff. That's all part of it.
Yeah.
But also accepting the fact of how far, what you have going on and how far you've come and how blessed we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we're able to do the things that we're able to do.
Yeah.
And the fact that I love what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And will it mean sometimes that, I need to take a break, or will it mean sometimes that something's not going to get done?
Absolutely.
Absolutely what it's going to mean.
I always call it this is my theory. I always break it down to my White Castle theory. I love White Castles. I love White Castle.
I was about to say, but White Castle does not.
No. Yeah. Everybody has that experience. You know what I'm saying?
Well, everybody got that number of burgers.
Yeah.
It's a number. It's a number. Everyone has.
Yeah, sure.
How many White Castle burgers
can you handle?
You can handle.
Right.
Everybody knows that. If you don't know that,
right.
And for those, because I'm hoping. There's no one in our audience that doesn't know who White Castle.
They might be. I mean, because if we go down south, like, matter of fact, you're from down south, right?
Well, I'm from here. I'm from up here, but I grew up. I was half of my life I spent down.
They got this place called Crystals.
Yeah, Crystal. Well, Crystals is like White.
It's like, but it ain't White Castle.
Well, okay,
it ain't White Castle. But my White Castle theory is this.
Yes. What is your White Castle theory?
I love White Castles. But I can always get tired of it too.
Oh, all right. Okay.
So we love what we do. I get tired of it though. I'm human.
Because it's a strain. It can be a strain. It can be a strain sometimes.
But I'm human. It's all part of being human.
And what happens is when you are in our field of, creating space for other people.
Sure.
Then sometimes, you're doing that a lot because we are making space for the people to talk about their concerns and their things, what's going on with them. And so that self-care piece is very important. We've talked about self-care on the show,
Superman got tired of being Superman sometimes. He just wanted to be Clark.
Right.
I just want to be Clark. That's it. And eat White Castles. You know what I'm saying?
Eat some White Castle.
But he knew he had
only 3 burgers.
Oh, 3 burgers.
Maybe 4.
Maybe 4, maybe 5 or whatever.
Okay, 5 is pushing.
Okay.
5 is pushing. I mean, I haven't had. I could
eat like 10, 11.
Woo! Yeah. All right. That's where you gotta clear. You gotta clear the house.
Yeah.
Well, let somebody know.
Oh yeah. Listen, my mama, rest in peace. She used to tell you that. Listen, that was the best. That was the best laxative for her.
Okay.
I hate to go there. I'm sorry, but that was it.
That's okay. My mom too. Make sure rest in peace.
She would be in the hospital. She would be in the hospital
and want a White Castle.
They be trying to give her all the stuff. Nothing worked. She said, Dave, just bring me like 2 White Castles and whatnot.
Yeah, like White Castle do it like nothing. Those onions. Woo! Those onions in that grill that grill that has never been cleaned.
Never been cleaned. Never.
Ain't even. And it's amazing because nobody, like you go to White Castle.
Nobody cares.
My mom, may she rest in peace. She, when I would go up to North Jersey or what have you, she'd want the Crave pack.
That's right.
You got that 30
That's
Crave
that 30 pack.
all the
That's
time.
Right.
And let me tell you something. Don't take. I remember one time, ate a couple burgers out. This is years and years ago.
On the way home.
Right. Because, you bringing it back. Right, I thought, finder's fee. You know what I mean? I'm eating a couple.
And they're best as soon as they come from the drive-through window.
They are, right.
Okay.
So, ate a couple burgers, got it back to her.
Right.
And so, anybody who knows me, who knows my mom, she was, she was not shy of the curse words.
Right.
So that was, I had to hear it. Yeah, exactly. Like you buy your own. You don't take any out the Crave pack. Right. I need all
these burgers.
Yeah, these are all, because these are the last, whatever.
That's right.
So yeah.
And they're going to last.
Right. Yeah, they're going to last. They stay with you. So, All right. So we've had a really good show today. I needed this. This was fun. Absolutely. This is absolutely fun. I want to say, look, I'm not going to make any promises to our audience. I'm not going to say we'll be back next week. I'm going to say we will see you soon.
Yes.
Because we will. Yes. We will. Yes. Because what we have to do is we have to embrace and accept the fact, because I'm accepting the fact that I'm a busy person.
Yes.
I want to get this show to you. I want to get topics to you. And that is important to me. So I don't want anybody to think that it isn't.
Yes.
However, I also know that I got a lot of the stuff that I need to do too.
Right.
So, it depends on how it works in the schedule. And I think the acceptance also helps you to be less stressed about it.
Absolutely.
Like I'm less stressed.
Yeah. Knowing that, okay, listen, we got to get it in.
Right.
But
we're going to figure it out.
We're going to always work it out.
Exactly.
That's what we always do.
Because this is about transition. When you're transitioning, you're busy, and that's Absolutely. A lot of transitions. Absolutely. And they can be uncomfortable, but transition is necessary for growth.
Yes.
And growth is part of living.
Yes.
It is. We can't growth is part of living.
Can't escape it.
Can't escape it.
Can't escape it.
So until next time, be well, be great, be you.